Day. Call on Government Order of the Day number 3.
Crown Pastoral Land Rent for Pastoral Leases Amendment Bill interrupted debate on second reading.
Members, when we were last debating the Crown Pastoral Land Rent for Pastoral Leases Amendment Bill, Raymond Ho was speaking and has 6 minutes 30 seconds remaining should he wish to speak. Raymond Ho.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'll stay.
Thank you, Minister. I say to that Minister responsible for this bill that New Zealand taxpayers will be shortchanged, and a select few farmers will benefit from a rent reduction even if they do not need it, and just another government bill which favours the 1% at the cost of the 99%. The Crown Pastoral Land Rent for Pastoral Leases Amendment Bill seeks to change the rules for setting rents for pastoral leases. If this bill passes, then rents will be determined purely on the stock carrying capacity, not on the land, not the value of the property, or the non-pastoral values, Mr. Jagating, or non-pastoral values which this Crown-earned properties are increasingly purchased for. This means that the farmers will be given a discount for their rent, and the Crown's rights will be given away to a few select farmers who purchased their leases knowing the rules, probably advised correctly by that member. Another serious consequence arises from the fact that, Mr. Speaker, many of these farms are going through a tenure review. Now, tenure review splits the land. Let me explain to Ms. Jagating. Tenure review splits the land between the Crown as the landlord and the farmers as lessees or tenants, meaning that a part of the land is converted into a freehold ownership, and a part is converted into public conservation land. After tenure review, to gain freehold titles, some of the properties are unsold for big profits by those tenant-turned owners. If the past is anything to go by, of the 77 rounds that have completed their tenure review from 1992 to 2008, at least 28 new landholders have unsold 176 parcels of the property of newly freehold land. Combine this land, in which the tenant previously had the leasehold interest plus improvements, was freehold property from the Crown for $6.9 million and unsold for $134 million. So, Ms. Jagating and the Minister responsible for this bill, the two figures are very vivid. $6.9 million paid to this Crown and unsold for $134 million. The current rent is already set at low 2% of the land value. In addition to this, there is a mechanism to reduce rents in cases of hardships. My good friend and Labour member for Palmerston North in Liz Galloway asked a very good question in his first reading contribution. The question was, does any member know that how many such kind of tenants applied for the discount? The zero was and probably still is. The answer was and probably is zero. So that mechanism does not apply to those tenants. So Land Information Minister, my favourite minister, Maurice Williamson, knows or must have known that the low rent will be capitalised by the farmers in their sale price when they sell their interest. And I think that has been covered quite thoroughly and comprehensively in the Clayton report produced in the 1980s. So I say to the Minister that all New Zealanders own the land, and it's not right for his government to just give away part of the Crown's interest to a select group, many of whom do not need it. This really a case of the national government ruling in the interests of the privileged few 1% at the cost of the ordinary many 99% of ordinary Kiwis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
I call the Honourable David Carter.
Mr. Speaker, it is a pleasure for me